VETtalk video and podcasts are proudly supported by the Animal Referral Hospital.
G'day, I'm Brian Pickering.
And I'm Kaye Browne.
And welcome to VETtalk, with new videos and podcasts available every Saturday right here on vettalkradio.com.au, or you can grab us in the iTunes store, absolutely free.
In this week's show, we have part 2 of our live chat with Animal Referral Hospital surgical specialist Dr. Sarah Goldsmid, that's a mouthful, isn't it, who reveals what it's like at a party when someone asks her what she does for a living.
And it's actually quite funny, her response. Also, what can you do if your fussy feline refuses to eat the special diet that's been prescribed? Cat expert Dr. Kendall has some very clever ideas.
Plus, in this extended VETtalk podcast, you'll be amazed at some of the quirky pet insurance claims made in Australia. More on that later in the show.
But first, we have a very, very special story for you. A world-first breakthrough in trying to reverse the cruel effects of dementia, which affects both dogs and humans.
Over the past few months, the University of Sydney scientists who are running this groundbreaking trial have given VETtalk unprecedented access to follow and record the progress of a lovely Cocker Spaniel called Timmy to see if their revolutionary neural stem cell therapy would restore his memory and his quality of life.
And we were there when the first results came in.
It's hard to believe, but just a year ago, Timmy, the Cocker Spaniel, was a heartbeat away from being put to sleep.
If we hadn't been through this with Timmy, unfortunately we would have had to put Timmy down because it was unbearable in the end. It wasn't good for him either.
Timmy had the doggy equivalent of Alzheimer's disease, known as canine cognitive dysfunction, or CCD.
Waking on the hour, every hour at night, from the minute we went to bed till I'll get up at 6 in the morning to go to work. So he's up wandering around, back on the bed, up wandering around and barking.
CCD affects 12% of dogs over the age of 8. The classic symptoms: staring, pacing, crying all night, forgetting how to use doors or to go outside to the toilet. When the dysfunction reaches the point when owners can't cope with their demented dog, most choose to euthanize them. However, Timmy's vet had heard about a revolutionary new study using stem cells to try to beat dementia. Timmy was picked to be part of the trial.
So the Dogs Plus Cells trial is a world-first trial where we're trying to cure or reverse or really do a major improvement in older dogs that have a dementia syndrome. What we're doing is getting a bit of skin from them, growing up stem cells that are specific to that dog, and then transplanting it back into the memory part of their brain. And what we're hoping to see is clinical improvements and also memory improvements.
The concept is the brainchild of the Regenerative Neuroscience Group, and it's already successfully restored memory in rats. Now they're hoping they'll see similar dramatic improvements in dogs, but how would they know if Timmy's new brain cells are working or not?
A researcher came up with what's called the canine sand maze, and basically it's I guess you would call it an arena of sand, a circular arena. It has a lot of liver treat powder mixed through it, and then the dog is shown where treats are. The powder's mixed through to mask the scent. The dog's very good at sniffing out treats, and so there are visual markers for the dog, and so the dog's shown where treats are, and then they go through a number of learning trials, and then they ideally remember where the treat is in relation to the visual markers in the arena. And so it's been tested on a number of young dogs and then older dogs, and now we're using it on these dogs with dementia. And so they're first tested before they have any procedures done, and then at 3 months post having their cell transplant, they're retested to see if their memory has improved with the transplant.
And the result of Timmy's first post-transplant test?
Now, our latest dog, hot off the press, was a clinical improvement. In terms of memory, we probably need to analyse the results in more detail, but it's very encouraging that clinically that dog did improve.
Associate Professor Valenzuela, who's leading the study, is quietly optimistic.
This trial, hopefully at the end of the day, will revolutionise treatment for dogs and revolutionise treatment for humans. So if it's successful in this trial, our next step and the big aim of the whole project is to trial it in humans, but we really need to wait and see.
Timmy's dad, though, is already totally convinced the procedure has worked.
Oh, the improvements have been unbelievable at night. I'm actually getting a good night's sleep now. So he gets up once at night just to go out to the toilet, and then he's back in, and then he sleeps until about 5 o'clock, which is fantastic compared to what we had before. So unbelievable.
That is good news. Have you noticed any other improvements at all?
Yeah, he's a lot more affectionate than he was towards myself and their children, and he's a lot more tolerant of the other dogs in the house now. So yeah, it's a win. It's much better than it was. So it's heaps better.
Timmy's new and improved sleep pattern is also being tracked by a special monitor.
Timmy's wearing a Hayrex monitor, and it's a bit like a Fitbit for dogs. So he wears it on his collar, and when he gets close to the receiver, which is plugged into the modem at home, the data transfers across. And I can log in any time and just look and see how active Timmy's been, how much up and down he's done during the day and during the night.
But to conclusively prove once and for all that these neural stem cell transplants restore memory, they need to test a further 10 dogs.
Yeah, so what we're really looking for is old dogs. A lot of people might just think that their dog's old and that the things that it does are just due to old age, but certain behaviours like Timmy's being awake a lot at night and not being able to settle down, increase in anxiety in older dogs, and they'll do things like when they go to the door, they might go to the wrong side of the door, so they'll go and sit at the hinge side. Some of these dogs might walk under a piece of furniture and just get stuck there. They can't work out how to get out. They'll often stare at walls or just stare into space, and these sort of behaviours don't really tend to worry the owners too much, so they don't think there's a problem with the dog. It's really when they have behaviours like the dog going to the toilet inside or barking and carrying on all night that they start to worry. But we'd really like to see owners being aware of these symptoms, like getting lost in the house and not being able to find the food when it's dropped on the floor, getting stuck under the furniture. And then if they notice these signs and see their vet or do our canine cognitive dysfunction rating scale, we can, potentially help them and maybe get their dog into trial as well.
For potential trial participants, Timmy's dad has this advice.
Sarah, who made first contact with us, has been absolutely fantastic. You can ring her any time of the day or night, and she will always answer. She's there for you, just from the smallest thing to the biggest thing. And after Timmy had the operation, we were in contact every day, and she would come around 2 or 3 times in that first week just to see him. And she lives half an hour away, and she would drive there. It's fantastic. She's the backbone of the program, I reckon.
So if you have a dog showing CCD symptoms, simply go to RNG's website at rng.org.au, take the interactive CCD rating test of just 13 questions, or contact the team directly to hopefully be part of this amazing study.
So I'm very happy for the owners and for Timmy, and we hope that positive outcome keeps on being seen in our new dogs.
It's not just for dogs that you're doing this, though, is it?
Absolutely. This trial, hopefully at the end of the day, will revolutionise treatment for dogs and revolutionise treatment for humans. So if it's successful in this trial, our next step and the big aim of the whole project is to trial it in humans. But we really need to wait and see.
That's a pretty amazing story.
Oh, absolutely wonderful. Heartwarming, especially right on the eve of Christmas.
Yeah. And we'd like to thank Associate Professor Michael Valenzuela and Dr. Sarah Toole, who is in fact the coordinator of the RNG group, which stands for Regenerative Neuroscience Group. I finally got it right.
You've been practicing.
Thanks for allowing us access to that story, and we look forward to the new year. And you can also see a video version on VETtalktv.com. Just search for Timmy from our homepage. Well, welcome back to Vet Talk with Dr. Sarah Goldsmid from the Animal Referral Hospital. Don't forget you can check us out in the iTunes store, or you can watch this little video. What do they call it? A vodcast? Video on demand cast?
Could be, or a podcast with pictures.
You can watch that on
You get vodka when you're in a podcast?
You can watch that on VETtalktv.com. That's the one. She's throwing me off now with the vodka line.
We could have Vet Talk parties.
We could.
I like it. Speaking of parties,
no.
what do you do at parties or dinner parties when people say, "What do you do?" Do you tell them?
Yes, I do normally tell them, and then I often get a bombardment of questions about their pet.
Yeah.
So they'll say, my Fluffy's had runny poos for the last 3 days. What do I do? And I go, I'm a surgeon, sorry, I can't deal with that.
I don't know anything about that stuff.
I am actually limited in my answers because they'll ask me, what's the best flea treatment? I go, well, I don't know. I'd have to ask somebody in retail or medicine about that, or my dermatologist will know.
Yeah. I've seen your own dogs in here. So.
I do have to ask somebody what the best vaccine for my pet is now and how often I should vaccinate, because I don't do that regularly. That's not my day-to-day work.
But when it comes to Christmas, probably you get the job of cutting up the turkey.
And I have to sew it up again afterwards.
Speaking of sewing, I've seen you sew.
Yes.
You do it with your eyes closed and talking to camera. It's like...
I usually keep my eyes open, but...
you must be very good at darning socks.
I love sewing. Like, when I grew up, I was very much into creating crafts, and sewing, cross-stitch was popular.
Well, it's paid off.
I think you have to have a kind of three-dimensional mind to be a surgeon, particularly. It's a different kind of skill set to some of the other specialties, and thinking three-dimensionally, being good at puzzles. When I have a skin wound that I've got to close and it's got to come together, and you've got to think, well, what happens if I lift this bit of skin and move it here? How will that affect the other skin? How is it going to suture closed? You do have to have that sort of mind of creative three-dimensional thinking. I think probably similar to like architects or design people. It's very similar. It's quite artistic to be a surgeon in my mind. And so I think having those sort of skills and dexterous with your hands, I guess.
Well, she certainly is dexterous with her hands. I've spent quite a number of months, I suppose, watching Sarah and her team, of course, highly qualified team, but watching Sarah in particular, how she works, how she kind of sews stuff up.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
And look, we'll have plenty more live VETtalk video chats with Dr. Sarah in the new year. And you can also watch our recording sessions on VETtalktv.com under the podcast links. Well, as you can probably tell, we're getting out and about a lot more, recording live chats with veterinary experts about all kinds of things. Now, sometimes it's just to find out more about the person, and other times it's to try to find answers to specific problems. And here's another of our live chats we did with well-known cat vet, Dr. Kendall from the Chatswood Cat Palace.
Now, on VETtalk, we often speak with the wonderful Dr. Anne Fawcett, who I understand is a good friend of yours, Dr. Kim Kendall.
Yeah, I trained her with what she started to know about cats, but she's progressed from there.
Well, she's very prolific on her blog, Small Animal Talk, and in fact, this week she actually spoke about a problem with one of her own cats who is on a prescription diet because she has kidney disease, and she was talking about the difficulty in getting cats to eat the prescription food. So I thought, let's talk to the expert. How do you get cats to eat something if they don't want to?
Well, you can't. If they don't want to, you can medicate them. The problem with cats is that if they feel unwell and they eat something, they assume that it's what they've eaten has made them feel unwell. Okay, it's a default mechanism because it's easy to poison cats, as we've discussed in the past. And so if they feel unwell, they're going to avoid that another time. And it's a very strong reflex in cats. Cats can associate feeling unwell after a meal as being with the meal for 3 hours, where dogs and rats can only associate for half an hour. So the problem with a cat and, say, the kidney diet, the prescription kidney diet, is that the cat already has a low-grade nausea going on involving with their kidney disease. So they'll often try a new diet for a bit, but they still don't feel better. So they say, well, that must be the diet. So they tend to want to go back to their original diet, which once upon a time they didn't feel sick from. But now they do. However, they've accommodated that diet in their as part of their environment, so they're happy to go back and default to habit. So it's interesting that both of the major food companies have at the same time brought out a new kidney diet specifically, where they finally asked the cats. They finally either got an accumulation of cats with kidney disease that they could ask the question, but they asked them, what do you taste? What do you like to taste? And that, I'd love to know the story of that, how they developed the palate profile. But it turns out to be quite different. The cats quite like umami once they're sick. I don't know what that says about umami, but That's what cats like. So
that's that savoury taste.
It's the taste that nobody can describe.
I thought you were talking about my mother at first. I didn't know, your
mummy.
Your mum.
Could be your mummy, yeah. And so they've now both have developed food that tastes good to cats with kidney disease because the uremia, the lack of clearance of the toxic products, changes their palate. Well, that's very sensible, isn't it? So I'm finding that those diets are quite palatable to the cats who have kidney problems. And we've managed to pull back a couple of old cats to the point where they can, they're actually eating better. And their own research, they're in the... you always have to worry a bit about manufacturer research, but their research is indicating the cats will eat up to 30% more of the diet, which, that's a pretty amazing...
That's very good.
That's going to slow down the decline. If the cats won't be in it, and, they now make these diets in wet and dry, and fish and chicken, but if none of that suits the cat, and there are some very determined old cats out there who are just not going to change, then there's other ways around it. And I particularly like a product called epacotine, which is basically ground up prawn shells. It's got a thing in it called chitosan. In humans, they call it the fat buster.
I could do with some of that.
It takes the cholesterol out of your blood.
Oh, okay.
And it's got extra calcium and all sorts of things. It's a proprietary product, so nobody's ever going to really know what's in it. But it looks like crushed prawn shells. And that most cats find that reasonably palatable. And when you put that on their ordinary food, as long as the food isn't too high in salt, then you seem to get the renal benefits from it.
Wow. Good advice. I love the sound of that. That was Dr. Kim Kendall from the Chatswood Cat Palace. And you can also watch a video version of our chat. Just go to VETtalktv.com/podcasts.
Pet insurance is often a word that a lot of people go, oh, God, pet insurance, no, can't afford that, whatever. But proof is in the pudding as to how valuable it actually is. And on the line from Pet Insurance Australia, we've got Nadia Crighton. G'day, Nadia.
Hi, how are you going?
Good. You're a former editor of Dog's Life magazine, is that right?
Most certainly am. So I've been around the traps within the pet industry for quite a few years now.
So you know what you're talking about, hopefully.
Well, hopefully, yes.
And we've certainly shared a lot of chats in the past, many moons ago when you were editor.
Some great days at Dog's Life magazine, and you'd learn an awful lot about pet owners and the pet industry.
Speaking of pet owners, tell us about some of the, I guess, more radical things or quirky things that pet owners have had to claim on their pet insurance.
I suppose the most common of the unusual things, we all have dogs, and look, they're natural scavengers and they can get into all sorts of trouble. And the main one is, of course, ingesting foreign objects.
Right.
So dogs having to go in and have pretty extensive surgery for foreign objects. We recently had, back in May, we had a staffy who swallowed a needle.
A needle? How on earth did he do that?
Just messing around, and a needle had dropped on the floor and it got caught up with stuff, and the dog ingested a needle.
That's awful. We nearly had a battery. This is why I realised how dangerous this was. One of those small AAA batteries was on the floor, and our little Chica, the little toy poodle, picked it up and dropped it. But, I mean, she could easily have swallowed it.
Oh, completely. Look, we've got a family Doberman called Carter, and he loves ornamental rocks, those shiny, beautiful ornamental rocks.
Yes.
Oh, no.
And he likes to play with them and throw them in the air. And he was playing with one, threw it in the air, and $4,000 later it was removed from his stomach.
Oh, great.
Ooh.
And did you have insurance for that?
Luckily, we had insurance, yes. It's so readily available now, and look, it's in everybody's budget. I mean, really, if you look at the packages, it is in everybody's budget.
Yeah.
15 years ago, we weren't so lucky. Oh, golly, I'm showing my age now. I had a Doberman who ran up a tree chasing a cat. When she realised she couldn't quite climb trees, she fell down and snapped her cruciate ligament. And it was great. It was double income, no kids. And, hey, my husband and I could go out and borrow $5,000 from the bank at a ridiculously high interest rate and pay the vets. But if I had children and a mortgage, I don't think I would have been able to do that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And you've got 4 kids now, so let alone
I
the dog.
have 4 children, so all of my pets have comprehensive pet insurance because you just don't know what's around the corner.
Yeah. Look, I'm constantly amazed at what gets swallowed. We did a story recently on of all things, a Labrador, believe it or not, who swallowed a bath plug, one of those rubber bath plugs.
Oh,
but wait for this, it was 4 years earlier.
Yes, well, the problem with things like plugs or with tennis balls, half of tennis balls, they can get lodged in the intestines, and then they can act like a little valve.
Yeah.
So your dog may be really sick, and then the valve kind of pops, and then your dog's fine.
Yeah.
And then your dog is really sick again. So it can take, sometimes with these things, it can take some time in noticing them. In others, there was a Great Dane recently who was a star, went viral on the internet. A 3-year-old Great Dane in the US who had 43.5 socks removed from their intestines.
Oh, my goodness.
I think I might have seen that online.
Yep.
But it's not only dogs that get into trouble. Our pussycats can get into grief as well.
Yeah, we really try and push the message out there. Hey, I know it's a cute, old-fashioned symbol of a cat playing with twine or string, but it can be really dangerous. And we've had a cat this year who had a linear foreign body, which is when the string gets caught around the tongue, and then you may notice it popping out of their bottom.
Oh, okay.
Strung from end to end.
It also can bunch in the intestinal tract and actually saw through and causing huge amounts of infections and things like that. So if you do notice that your cat or dog has a piece of string poking out of their rear end,
Yep.
it's straight to your local vet.
Exactly. It's not just sort of stones and bath plugs and all the rest of it. What are some of the more quirky things that the claims have been made by pet owners on their pets?
It seems that dogs in particular have a liking to underwear.
Okay. What kind of underwear?
D-strings in particular. So all the women out there, make sure that you're, women and men, you know, we're living in that kind of world. Make sure you keep your underwear, your precious underwear, well out of reach.
Yep.
Clean, dirty, fresh out of the tumble dryer, make sure it's out of reach.
I leave mine under the pillow.
Even under the pillow.
He's joking. But our much-loved and unfortunately no longer with us, Bichon, used to like finding any of mine, and he didn't eat them, he just sort of carried them around and put them on the couch, and, you know, that was really nice when people came to visit, and I'd go, oh, no, quickly, got to hide the undies.
Yes, I've had it. We had a German Shorthair Pointer that was quite fond of my husband's underwear. And he'd actually eat the entire crutch out of the underwear.
Oh, really?
That was always a lovely thing when it came to the washing, and you'd think, what on earth has gone on here? So dogs are very funny creatures. I suppose it'd be a bit more embarrassing going to your vet and having your G-strings actually removed from your stomach, because of course your vet would be able to see all of the glory of your underwear.
Well,
so
yeah. Exactly.
If that's not a push to make sure you put your underwear away, I don't know what is.
And look, surgical specialist Dr. Sarah Goldsmid from the Animal Referral Hospital, we did a story with her about her dog, little Subi, a little pug, is it? Yeah. Swallowing some sanitary items.
See, and this is, between the three of us, we've come up with so many personal stories. So this is a really big problem. It can be quite a big problem within the general community. I know all of your listeners right now, they're all nodding their heads and recalling shoes or thongs or anything. You know, tennis balls, the lot.
Exactly.
So,
look, and I guess we shouldn't really laugh at it all, because it is a serious problem, and people should be very aware. Just like young kids, toddlers with batteries, those small batteries about the size of a 5-cent coin. So a good message, and look, it's well worth being reminded, as humorous as some of the items are, and it's probably even more worthwhile looking at pet insurance to make sure that.
Oh, completely. It's like with the needle incident. I mean, that operation in itself was over $4,500, you know, and hey, in this day and age, we don't have that kind of money lying around. Sadly, it happens very quickly, and you need to find the money, and it can happen at Christmas, it can happen at all those really important times of the year, and, you know, pet insurance does ensure that if these things happen, and God forbid they, you know, hopefully they don't, but if they do, that you just don't need to worry about that aspect. You can just get on with making sure that your pet is in the best health and well-being possible.
Absolutely. Nadia, thank you so much for joining us again. First time on VETtalk.
You're very welcome. It was lovely to be back on the show.
And we hope that you have a wonderful and safe and insurance claim-free holiday season.
That would be wonderful. Thank you so much, guys.
And we'll talk to you again next year.
And that was our old mate Nadia Crighton from Pet Insurance Australia.
Oh, she's going to kill you for that. She isn't old just because she has 4 kids and a husband and dogs and chickens and everything to look after.
Well, certainly some great reminders that we need to be careful about all the stuff that we have lying around our houses, everything from batteries, in our case, bath plugs, and, of course, that underwear, which is a little bit weird, but there you go. And now it's time for all the latest pet and animal news from across Australia and around the world with Kaye Browne.
Thanks, BB. Now, researchers from Cornell University have produced a healthy litter of puppies by in vitro fertilisation. It's great news and a world first. I heard about it first on the Channel 9 Today show this morning, and it's a little bit unfortunate because the presenters clearly didn't have a clue why this is so exciting.
It's so typical of some TV shows, isn't it?
No, not normally today, though. They're normally really good. Okay, but what they didn't understand is that the techniques used to finally, after, about 40 years of trying, to finally successfully create fertilised eggs in the lab, then allow frozen puppy embryos to be implanted, resulting in live births, means we can now preserve endangered canid species, plus potentially eradicate heritable diseases in dogs.
Well, that's a good reason for doing it, because I was thinking while you're saying that, like, why are we doing this?
Exactly.
But that's perfect.
Yep.
Good.
Yep. For example, golden retrievers are well known for developing lymphoma, a type of cancer, and Dalmatians unfortunately carry a gene that predisposes them to blockages with urinary stones. Very painful, very expensive to get fixed. So by combining gene editing techniques and IVF techniques as well, now through this, researchers believe they can prevent genetic disease before it starts.
What a great idea.
Great
Well
story.
done.
Yeah. So do you sleep with your pet?
Are you asking me? Do I have a choice?
No, we don't. Scientists at the Center for Sleep Medicine, the Mayo Clinic in Arizona, decided to conduct a survey of their patients to find out how common the practice of sleeping with pets is and whether it's good or bad for getting a good night's sleep. Of the 150 people surveyed, 49% said they did have a pet in their bedroom, and more than half of those let their pet sleep on the bed. Now, 41% said they slept better knowing their pet was in the room or on the bed, while just 20% said their pet disrupted their sleep by moving or snoring or panting, like little Chica's doing on my lap at the moment. But they put up with it. Now, the Mayo Clinic wants to do further research. Hello, that's what all researchers say. However, in the meantime, they're suggesting those who feel sleep-deprived consider limiting cuddle time to daylight hours.
I remember little Matisse. He was a snorer. He loved snoring. It was almost like, look at me, I'm sleeping.
Yes. He did it with his eyes open sometimes too. Okay, our last story. They love cats in Japan. How much? Enough to create eau de cologne of feline.
Oh, no.
I kid you not. Hot off the press, Japanese online retailer Felissimo is selling what they say is the scent of a cat's forehead in a bottle.
A cat's forehead in a bottle?
This new addition to their popular lines of kitten lingerie and feline futons was apparently created from the results of a survey of cat lovers describing them as being the smell of sunshine, a futon that's been dried in the sun, or the smell of sweet bread. The head of Yamamoto Perfumery, Mr. Yamamoto himself, then spent 4 months of very serious research, going from cat cafe to cat cafe, sniffing cats' heads, to ensure they really did come up with the right scent. And what did they come up with? Fluffy brow scented fabric water.
You've made this entire story up, I can tell.
I have not. We'll put a photo on our website page. You can check it out. And it's about $10 US a bottle.
Okay, of course it is. I tell you what, they're very, very good at marketing, and, you know, it's seriously weird. I mean...
Are we going to have wet dog smell next?
Well, a futon that's been dried in the sun smells probably a bit like wet dog, doesn't it, do you think?
I think so, but that's our news wrap-up for this week and this year.
Well, thank you very much for that, KB, and we will be having a lot more shows in the new year. In fact, what we're going to do now is take a break for about 2 or 3 weeks. However, you won't be missing out because we'll have the best of VETtalk over the last...
Well, the better ones. I don't know if we can call them best of. There's, you know, that's a bit...
Well, they're all good, aren't they, really?
Well,
oh, do you mean the ones with you in them? Okay, more of you than me. Okay. Anyway, if you like what we do, as we always say, please tell a friend. If you don't, please tell us. But if you've got some story ideas, we'd love to hear from you. And in the new year, we're going to get out and about a lot more, and we're going to do a lot more live chats with our vets and our specialists and other people involved, our vet nurses, in fact, involved in the veterinary sector in particular, and just find out a little bit more about them, I suppose, to take away a bit of the scare factor and to really show that they really do care and that they're out there to help you and your pets.
And we'll bring you what happens behind the door. Once your pet goes behind the closed door, you don't normally see it, but I can tell you it's all good.
Alrighty, well, thanks for joining us and thanks for supporting us through the last 6, 8, 12 months or so. I'm Browne Pickering.
And I'm Kaye Browne.
Until then, happy Christmas and happy New Year.
And happy Hanukkah.
Bye-bye.